From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
It's a special edition of AgDay from the road in Union City, Tennessee at the DeKalb Asgrow Delta Pine Field Day. Of course, we'll have the latest news from the AgDay studios.
I'm Betsy Gibbon. The hurricane season prepares to ramp up. Drought intensifies in parts of the Corn Belt. Which state will be well represented in Farm Bill talks and putting the brakes on livestock hauling regulations?
In agribusiness, market movements and trade.
So if there's bullish news, the sellers are just gone and we just pop, and then the vice versa.
And we'll talk agronomy with local experts, plus a little farm sense.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning and welcome to AgDay. I'm Clinton Griffiths, and yes, we are on the road again today. We're on the far western side of Tennessee in Union City. This area is known for its diversity of crops, from corn to cotton, tobacco to soybeans. Farmers here have plenty of options. Now, the biggest hurdle is always the weather, and so far summer crops are hanging tough, but a rain would sure help.
A lot of our early planted beans right now are finished blooming, and we just got to fill pods. So if we can just get some good moisture here in the next 2 weeks, I think we'll have an exceptional crop. Right now the crop looks very clean. We've done a great job of keeping the crop clean. They're keeping a few bugs off, some worms off now, and trying to get it wrapped up.
We'll have more from the road and the DeKalb Asgrow Delta Pine Field Day coming up, but first, let's check on the day's news. Betsy Gibbon is in the AgDay studios and has today's headline.
Thanks, Clinton. While most of the Midwest is enjoying sufficient moisture this growing season, there are some spots where crops are in trouble. This field is located near Hardin, Missouri, which is about an hour east of Kansas City, and the field is made up of sandy soil. All of the surrounding counties are covered in D3 drought conditions, the second worst category. A third of the state is in severe or extreme drought. Statewide, a third of the corn crop is poor to very poor shape. The latest drought monitor shows Michigan and parts of Wisconsin have dry conditions, but otherwise the Corn Belt shows adequate moisture. Following last year's devastating hurricane season for the U.S., it appears we may get a break this year. Colorado State University forecasters have updated their annual outlook. They're calling for a below-average hurricane season. Despite the early arrival of subtropical storm Alberto in May, the Atlantic waters have been cooler than normal. Warm water is needed for hurricanes to develop. According to Colorado State, 12 named storms are likely to form in 2018, fewer than last year's 17. Forecasters warn not to get complacent. The most active time in the Atlantic season starts August 20th and peaks around September 10th. The Chinese government is urging the Trump administration to return to reason. This comes as President Trump is directing U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer to consider hitting China with higher tariffs on products. The White House is pushing to hike 10% tariffs to 25% on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods. So far, the White House has added a 25% duty on $34 billion worth of Chinese goods and will implement tariffs on another $16 billion worth of Chinese goods in the coming weeks. The state of North Dakota will be well represented when the Farm Bill Conference Committee convenes. 3 of the lawmakers are from there. Senator John Hoeven, a Republican, and Heidi Heitkamp, a Democrat, have been named to the committee. They are 2 of the 9 senators appointed to work out a compromise between the Senate and the House versions of the 2018 Farm Bill. Representative Kevin Kramer, Republican from North Dakota, was named earlier as a House conferee. Meanwhile, the Senate clearing a 4-bill spending package funding several governmental agencies from USDA to the FDA. The legislation sets aside $20.2 billion in discretionary spending for USDA and secures nearly $3 billion for the FDA. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell hoping at sending to conference 9 of the 12 bills with the House and soon to the president's desk after Labor Day. Livestock haulers could get additional time before 2 new trucking regulations go into effect. On Wednesday, the Senate passed an appropriations bill that includes an amendment that delays the implementation of the electronic logging devices mandate for livestock haulers. The ELD replaces the use of paper logs. The amendment extends the delay to September 2019. The ELD tracks how long drivers run their trucks. Cattle trade groups complain the hours of service rule which is monitored by the ELD, does not take into account the challenges of hauling livestock. There's a similar extension working its way through the House. An Indiana-based engine maker is recalling 500,000 trucks because of faulty pollution controls. The recall affects 2010 to 2015 medium and heavy trucks with engines made by Cummins. The trucks range from big pickups to utility trucks to big rigs. The Environmental Protection Agency says the defective part means pollution controls on the engines wear out more quickly than allowed. The food price index is showing its steepest monthly decline since December. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization Food Price Index, which measures monthly changes for cereal, oilseed, dairy products, meat, and sugar, declined 3.7% in July compared to June. The index declined on weaker exports for wheat, maize, and rice. The index showing steep declines in sugar and dairy prices as well. Those are the headlines. Now back to Clinton Griffiths on location at the DeKalb Asgrow Delta Pine Field Day in Union City, Tennessee.
All right, thanks, Betsy. Now, Mike Hoffman is off today, but David Harker from AgDay affiliate WNDU is filling in. He has today's crop comments. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Clinton. This picture comes from Ron Hass over in East Central Illinois. Now, Ron says some of the soybean fields are extremely tall. So tall, his wife decided to demonstrate for us. The USDA says 75% of the soybeans in Illinois are rated good to excellent. Well, it's the beginning of the fall calving season there for Matt Beach in Leonard, Missouri, as he starts to welcome the new calves on his operation. Now, Missouri is very dry. The U.S. Drought Monitor shows nearly 95% of Missouri is abnormally dry. 65% is considered moderate drought. And speaking of that drought, let's take a look at the Drought Monitor. Notice on the screen, whether it be in Missouri, out down in Texas, or out in the Four Corners region of the United States, that drought persists. Looks like we're going to get very little relief in the days to come. And be sure to stick around for that forecast. I'll have that later. Now, here are some hometown temps.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk markets with Allendale's own Bill Biederman. He joins me for a live discussion. That's next, and later, field day fodder and an agronomist assessment of the growing season.
AgDay, brought to you by the consistent performance of DeKalb and Asgrow, backed by 100% exclusive genetics for superior yield potential year after year. Ask your dealer or learn more at DeKalbAsgrow.com.
Well, we're having a live discussion here at the field day in Union City, Tennessee, and we have Bill Biederman here to talk about what's going on with these markets. And Bill, if we look at Thursday, boy, it was exciting. There was a lot happening during the day Thursday on the grain side of the market.
Yeah, it was very wild because of all the volatility and the uncertainty and the drama that's going on in Washington has just really played an impact. And there's a lot of voids in the market. So if there's bullish news, the sellers are just gone and we just pop, and then the vice versa.
Yeah, it seems like people want to be in this market. They're just not sure if they should be in the market.
You know, a lot of people are off to the sideline. I mean, this market is very attractive. It's very cheap. It's extremely cheap. But there's so much drama and so much fear of seeing tariffs accelerate, people don't want to participate yet. Except I do believe that at least the guys I work with, the end users,
yes,
they're buying.
They're buying.
It's cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap. They're worried it could go up.
They're going to lock it in. And if we have a problem in the next year, or if demand reverses and the market starts to go up, they're going to use every bushel they locked in. It doesn't matter if we go to whatever price. I don't want to say it. Because it would not affect their bottom line.
Right, right. So as we look at where we've seen the most movement, I think a lot of people are asking about soybeans. Where do we see the soybean markets today?
Well, the soybeans are hanging probably between $8.60 and $9.20, okay. Right? $9 roughly, and that's where we are now. And you know, when you get down below $8.60, well, they're cheap. I mean, even today, we were $1.70 cheaper than Brazil.
Wow.
So, you know, like if you're the EU and you normally buy, you know, 180 million bushels from the U.S., they buy 514 million bushels. Well, why wouldn't they buy another 100 million bushels from us today, right now, get it done? And you're 100 million bushels on about a $2 spread, I think, is $200 million.
If you're doing that math right.
Yeah, so,
Carry
you know.
the one. Yeah. On the corn side of things, what do we see there?
Demand. we don't produce as much corn as we consume. The corn industry is sitting in the, really, it's only been set up like this 3 or 4 other times in history, all the way back to 1970. So, you know, the corn industry, unless we just have a huge increase in acres next year, it's on solid foundation.
So as you're looking out, what are you telling folks to do? What's your advice?
I've been buying it, and I'm buying more. If it goes down next week, I'll buy some more, because it's, you know, the farmer can't produce it for this, and the consumer can consume it for this. And so, you know, we're seeing, we've had a 30% drop in world stocks just in the last 2 years, and about a 20% drop in the United States ending stocks. People go, oh, well, stocks are still really big. Not if you bring it down to a per day, you know, we're down to like 39 days supply.
Right.
You throw any kind of hitch in there with more demand or maybe less supply somewhere like Europe or whatever, it's, you know.
Something to be encouraged about.
Absolutely.
All right, well, appreciate it, Bill. Thank you for your insights. We'll be back with more Ag Day from the road coming up.
To talk with Bill Biederman one-on-one, call Allendale Incorporated at 815-404-1917 or head online to allendale-inc.com. Ag Day, brought to you by new Delaro fungicide for corn and soybeans. Achieve personal best yields.
August weather is a major part of crop potential. David Harker with AgDay affiliate at WNDU joins us once again with a long-term forecast. And David, how do the next couple of weeks look temperature-wise as we start August?
Well, Clinton, whether it be the next couple of weeks or the next 30 days, the heat is going to be on, unfortunately, for the deep south and portions of the western plain states, and getting little relief from the drought conditions in the Four Corners region as well as in the central plains. Below normal temperatures hang around in the upper Midwest as well as the locations right there along the eastern seaboard. Most of us will probably be normal, if not a little bit below, above normal conditions up in the extreme northeast. Let's take a look in time and see what precipitation might fall here. Notice on the screen that the bulk of the precipitation is well east of the Mississippi River. I expect it in the Carolinas, stretching up through the northeast. And yes, we will see still some down in the panhandle of Florida as well. Notice this big area of dry air. That's associated with a high pressure system that will dominate the weekend forecast as well. The rain showers continue to push through along with our next system, but it doesn't look like it's going to give us a lot of precipitation, at least for the Midwestern states, until we get past the upcoming weekend. It remains dry out west as well, whether it be the Four Corners region or the Northwest. Yeah, we could use a little bit of rain everywhere across the entire United States. Notice what happens as we get to the evening hours on Saturday. The precipitation really picks up in locations right there along the Gulf of Mexico. Those are some of the locations that have seen quite a bit of rain, so if only some of that was pushed to the central plain states. We'll be watching that very carefully. Let's talk about the precipitation estimates, and you notice on the screen a lot of the activity is going to be stretched off to the east. Now, I do expect these 2 and 3 inch potentials to just stick around, whether it be from the deep south or locations rather along the Gulf of Mexico, stretching up through the Carolinas, Virginia, even up into New York as well as Vermont and areas in New Hampshire. Notice how dry it remains across a good portion of the central portion of the states, with little rain expected even as we look to the evening hours on Saturday. So here's a look at temperatures this afternoon. On the screen for you, we've got those temperatures warming up into the 90s all across the plain states, whether it be from the Dakotas stretching down through Kansas as well as Oklahoma and Texas. We're looking at temperatures in the middle 90s. Phoenix 104, that's going to be the warm spot across the entire map. And as you see on the screen, temperatures going into the overnight hours and tomorrow morning, it could get a little dicey, so we'll be watching those conditions as well. You got to watch out for the warmth to come. Now let's take a look at some hometown temps. Take a look at the forecast for areas in Washington, Richland, Washington, that is, mainly sunny and 86 degrees on the high side. For Ruston, Louisiana, sunny and hot with 93 degrees. And as we make our way up into New York, Hudson, New York, a high of 81.
All right, up next, we're going to talk agronomy with a couple of local experts and find out how the season's growing, and later, the joys of a field day.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
Welcome back to Ag Day on the road in Union City. We've got Larry Gannan and Todd Ladd. Both are agronomists from different parts of the country. Larry, let's start with you in Tennessee. What do the crops look like right now? USDA says they look fantastic.
Sure, Clinton. I think that's a little bit of an optimistic take by USDA. We're seeing conditions deteriorate just a little bit in some areas. We did get a little bit of rain a couple of days ago, but we've had some really dry spots over the last couple of 3 weeks in West Tennessee. We have some people that can't seem to miss the rain, but we've also got some that can't seem to buy a rain, as the old saying goes. So I think all in all, we're set up well for an average year. We're not going to have the sort of grain year that we had last year. The cotton crop looks great in places, but we've got cotton that's accelerating its way to maturity. That usually is not something that adds to our yield. So we're going to pick cotton earlier in Tennessee this year by at least 2 to 3 weeks than we usually do. We'll have a decent crop, but I don't think it's going to be a barn burner for everybody.
And Todd, as we look at Kentucky, what about over in your part of the country? How do things look there?
Okay, we started out a little slow. You know, we had a lot of rainy weather, so we got a little behind on planting. Then we finally got the crop planted. We're growing degree units are ahead of where we was, so we're actually, the crop is further along now than what it should be. You know, we're finding dented corn shouldn't be that way. We should still be 2 weeks away from that. So, you know, that and soybeans, like Larry said, we're finally getting some rain. You know, we're getting kind of dry, but we're finally getting some water, and those soybeans are kind of getting some second life in them. The corn crop, it's not going to be as good as last year, but I think we're still going to have a pretty respectable crop for 2018.
Larry, as we talk about agronomy and what are the biggest questions that you're being asked this year as you visit with farmers and growers in this part of the state?
Well, with the current commodity prices and the way they are, Clinton, it's how to maintain profitability with $8 soybeans and $3 corn. The one bright spot for us is cotton prices being as strong as they are. That drove an increase in cotton acres for us this year in West Tennessee. For the folks that are far enough south to grow cotton, that's going to make up for some of the lag in grain prices, but profitability is one of the biggest questions that you get. How do you survive in a low commodity price situation?
Yeah. Well, what about for you? What are folks asking in Kentucky?
What products do we need to be growing on our farms? You know, what's looking the best? You know, our return on investment, our margins are low. You know, what are the key things back to basics that we should be doing that helps us get back to where, you know, we can help with the low commodity prices and how we can still sustain our growth.
Overall, 2018 going to be a year to remember or a year to just get through?
Well, it kind of depends where you're at, but I think it's going to be just a year to get through.
All right, appreciate it. Same for you, Larry?
Yeah, I think some people are going to have one of the best crops they ever had, but a lot of us are going to have a fairly average crop.
All right, we'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
In the Country, brought to you by Kubota's M5 series, bringing new levels of comfort to hard work. Learn more at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
You know, I always like coming to a field day. Yes, it can be hot, and yes, the timing isn't always perfect, but is it ever? But I like the fact that you're setting aside time to come and learn. As a farmer or grower, you probably are only going to get about 40 chances to get this job right, once a year if you're lucky, and if Mother Nature cooperates. But to be the best at what you do requires education, finding out the latest research, trial results, scientific advancements, and strategies that could make the difference between profits or loss in a given year. It's a lot to take in, and field days like this are loaded with information. It's really easy in years where prices are sagging or the weather isn't cooperating to throw your hands up and forego these little extras. But a small investment in time or money might just be the key to unlocking your entire future. Don't miss that chance. Take the time to listen to local scientists, talk to agronomists or researchers, learn what you can from the people and places at your disposal. Not every idea is right for your operation. Deciding which ones will work, well, that's your job. But don't forgo a chance to listen or learn. Field days, conferences, and conventions may not always seem like the most important part of your year, but when margins are thin, even the little things can make a big difference in a farm's success. And that's going to do us for this special edition of Ag Day on the road in Union City, Tennessee. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow. Have a great day in farm country.
Ag Day, brought to you by the consistent performance of DeKalb and AgDay, backed by 100% exclusive genetics for superior yield potential year after year. Ask your dealer or learn more at DeKalbAsgrow.com.